I apologize for all the noise, 57 freeway, but I wanted to get in the background, Angel Stadium, and the iconic sign there. And of course I'm wearing my gear, because why? Baseball is back. You know, when I was little, I thought baseball was rather boring on TV. I love to play, but there was no way you could get me to sit still long enough to watch a baseball game on TV. Too much time between action. You know, after about an inning, I was ready to go outside and just do it myself. Much more fun. Started baseball, they called it minor league, which is now about the age of T-ball. We didn't have T-ball back then. So the kids, no matter how young and inexperienced, still pitched to each other. That made for some hilarious games, you know, with the scores of about 40 to 50 out in a 5-inning game. I remember my little brother Dan being in the outfield and right field playing minor league baseball, which has got to be by far the most boring place to be on the earth as a kid. And because there's no action out there, nobody's hitting the ball to right field. He's standing there looking at the sky, picking dandelions, knowing that, you know, until it's time to go bat, nothing's going to happen. And at one point, this jet fighter goes over top, and so Dan's just staring at the sky, looking at the contrails, and lo and behold, somebody hits the ball through the legs of the second baseman, and it rolls right out, almost to Dan's feet. Dan's still looking at the sky, turns around, follows the jet, and the second baseman runs out, picks up the ball right near Dan, throws it back to the infield, and I don't think Dan even knew that it ever happened. The highlight of Major League Baseball, you know, in Little League for me, was towards the end of my Little League career. In 6th grade, we had a bully, typical bully, who was bigger and stronger than everybody, and he knew it, and he pushed his weight around all the time at school, on the playground, during breaks, lunchtime. And I wasn't the kid that's going to stand up to him, and I never quite knew how to get him back, but inside I really did. I wanted to somehow put him in his place. So baseball allowed me to do that, and here's how. And one of the games towards the end of my Little League career, Doug's a pitcher, pretty overpowering pitcher, and I'm finally now coming into my own, and I'm on an opposing team, and early in the game, I get a hold of one of his pitches and hit it out of the park, which for me, that was unusual. I don't think I hit maybe 1 or 2 home runs prior to that game in the season. And I was trotting around the bases, feeling pretty proud, and maybe that's my revenge, right? And as I came around third base towards home plate, Doug walks over towards me, puts his face in his mitt so nobody else can hear. He says, "You got lucky, Joe. Just got lucky." And I kind of thought, oh yeah, he's still got to get his jabs in. So later in that game, towards the end of the game, I get up again, and he's got a pretty determined look on his face. But now I'm not scared, because I know I can hit his fastball. And sure enough, I get a hold of another one, put it out of the park. And this time I don't just strut around the bases. I don't just run around the bases, I strut. I am feeling pretty proud of myself. And I came around third base, and I turned to Doug and I said, "So much for getting lucky, huh, Doug?" And I crossed home plate. And then, of course, when the game was over, I went home as quickly as possible. Yeah, that was my revenge. 2 seasons I played baseball at North Central. Our record was something like 20 losses, 0 wins, and 1 tie. 0, 20, and 1. And the tie, that was the one game I missed. Coincidence that the only game we didn't lose, I wasn't there? I don't know. So after 2 brutal seasons in Minneapolis, I took a year off, traveled with the gospel group, playing trumpet, which was much better trumpeter than I ever was a baseball player. Transferred into Southern California College in Costa Mesa, now Vanguard University. And a buddy of mine, Mike, and another Montana friend, Sarah, who is going to school at APU, not down the road, decided we're going to go to a baseball game at Angel Stadium. And this is back when Angel Stadium was more like a football stadium than what you see in the background here. But again, I think this is my 3rd Major League Baseball game. No, that's, 3rd or 4th, I don't know. Anyway, we're goofing around, we're having fun, we're up on the 3rd deck because that's what we could afford, right? But we're close to the front of the balcony. Comes the 7th inning stretch, and we're standing up and we're singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And for reasons I cannot ever explain, other than I have no ability to control my impulses. We got towards the end of the song, and I reached down and I grabbed the white tennis shoe, the white sneaker that Sarah was wearing, and I picked it up and I had said, "Old ball game," and on game I just threw the shoe as far as I could off of the third deck. And back then they had this netting that was over the top of all the people behind home plate to keep them from getting hit by foul balls. Not a vertical net, but a horizontal one. And so I intentionally threw it way over down until it landed on the net above the crowd behind home plate. And we thought that was stupid and hilarious, and we're laughing. And it, was just 30 seconds later or less, one of the ushers comes down and says, "Excuse me, sir, what just happened there? We're getting reports that you threw something off the balcony." And there was a lady, a fan, sitting in the row right in front of us, who we hadn't spoken with, that even mentioned. And she turns around and with a super thick Bostonian accent, she says, "He was throwing sneakers! I swore the whole thing!" And the usher looks at me and says, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we were just having fun. I made sure it didn't hit anybody." And the lady, the Bostonian lady in front of us goes, "That's no way to have fun!" I think we were asked to leave. And because Sarah only had one shoe, I gave her a piggyback ride from the third deck all the way down to the car. Thankfully, she was very petite. And we got down to the car and we were laughing about the whole thing. We took a marker and we wrote on the shoe, the other shoe that was left, and on one side we wrote, "He was throwing sneakers," and on the other side we wrote, "That's no way to have fun." We put the score and the date. And Sarah says she still has that shoe in storage somewhere, although she's not quite sure where that might be. I understand. I have storage as well. After I graduated from Southern California College, now Vanguard University, I worked there on staff for just shy of 10 years. And one of the years, many of the years, part of the Welcome Week activities for new students and new student orientation was to go as a group to the Angel game in the fall. And after doing it for a few years in a row, somebody got the idea, and I don't remember exactly who, that we should see if we could have one of our people, one of our staff members or one of our students sing the national anthem for the game while we were there for Welcome Week. And so we called and found out you just have to submit an audition, right? And so I spoke with the musical director, Noel Wilson, and he said, "Well, let's put together a quartet and then we'll audition and see what happens." I was like, "Oh, that sounds great." So I and another guy and two girls worked out the parts under Noel's direction, and we nailed national anthem and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. We recorded it and shipped it in, and sure enough, they said, "That sounds great. We'd love to feature you guys. You can be the featured singers at the Welcome Week game for your college." I'm like, "Really?" Cool. So sure enough, got to sing the national anthem down on the field of Angel Stadium in front of our peers, and then from the booth led the crowd and Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which that alone was a fabulous experience. Unfortunately, there was no camera phones at the time, and the only videotape we have of it was a VHS somewhere, which I don't know where it is, nor if it would even work at this point, but it makes for a great memory. And the kicker was, because we didn't know this, but because we sang for the game, they gave us complimentary tickets down right behind home plate within like the first 10 rows. Best vantage point I ever had for a baseball game. And speaking of vantage points, a few years after that, I was offered tickets from a season ticket holder down on the lower level, right next to third base, second row. And I took my godson Spencer, who at the time was, I don't know, about 6 maybe, and we went to the game, and I was so excited because this is like one of the best seats in the house. Right at third base, right at the end of the dugout, you're right on the field, and I was just stoked out of my mind that Spencer and I got to go have this experience together. Well, Spencer hadn't really played much baseball up to that point and wasn't really all that interested, although it was kind of a fun outing for he and I. So he brought his coloring books, and basically what he did is he just turned around and kneeled down in front of his seat, used the seat as a table, and was coloring. And he'd look up at the stands, and he'd ask me a few questions, and whenever so there was some action, I'd try to get his attention, have him look around, and help him realize how close we were to the field, how cool this was. And he's like, oh yeah, that's nice. And he kept looking up, and finally he stops what he's doing, and he says, Joe, can I ask you something? I said, yeah, Spencer, anything. What's on your mind? He says, how come we can't sit up there? And he points way up to the top deck, and apparently that looked like a much more fun place to be than where we were. And I was like, oh man.